issue to us. And some of you, particularly Mayor Pro Tem, will remember this as a conversation we had when we adopted the UDO back in 2005. There's a provision in the ordinance right now that it does identify dumpsters or trash receptacles in commercial and residential areas itself, particularly with those apartments. And in looking at that, though, it calls for really that for new development now that a dumpster, when it comes in, it can go in. Basically, it has to be part of that overall development. It has to blend into from that site. This is the language we adopted back in the UDO was adopted back in December of 2004. It does require there be a gate has to be screened with a gate. Has to be screened on three sides with a gate itself. The wall has to be about 6 feet high. From that, the materials themselves have to be really can be of concrete, brick, stucco, or wood involved with that. And it requires that these dumpsters come into compliance within 18 months. That also includes really those non-conforming dumpsters at the time the ordinance was passed back in 2004 and went into effect in 2005. That was the issue at that time. In doing that, you get an idea about what we were running up against with the idea. This is really at 8th. This one right here is actually at 8th and Broadway. You can see the dumpster is exposed. There is nothing that really protects it from the viewing public. I guess hopefully we caught this on a good day where there's not a lot of trash around it from that standpoint. But if you go in and actually look at, if you had to go back and retrofit this to make it, make all the non-conforming ones conforming ones, this down here in the bottom down here would be what you're looking at. That is actually the dumpster at the annex. We went in, the dumpster we had initially was open like the one at 8th and Broadway. And we actually went back and closed and put a gate on it for that very reason. We had a lot of conversation, though, about that. And then sometime after the adoption of the ordinance itself, council has some concerns about actually enforcing this business on making them all non-conforming. Some of the reasons were from that standpoint, the size of the lot, for instance. If you saw the one on 8th and Broadway, there may not be another place for that dumpster to actually go. Keep it off the right of way and keep it on the property and keep it maintained and clean and all that goes with it. There's some concerns about that, about the cost, about the impact of it. And so at that time, when we had this conversation back in 2006, the planning department was asked to go back and review the existing and come up with a different proposal. And we did that back in, again, September of 2006. We had a first reading on this that was actually held to modify the ordinance. It minimized the screening requirements to only 3 sides with the open end. Still had to be away from the public view itself. You didn't have to have a gate, but you had to at least have 3 sides. You still had the materials you had to provide for it. They didn't have to be like materials of the building itself, but they had to be materials, again, that were made of brick or wood or stucco that really just screen it off from the public view. And that was the big thing was, again, trying to screen those off from the public view itself from that. Upon review of that, we still have concerns. You had concerns, again, about what we were trying to accomplish with that. Basically on the same ideas about can we go back and enforce these folks to do these things? Is it wise? Is it right? Can we accommodate these things and so forth? Again, council asked for more time, and at that time we decided it was really time to go and wait for the next. The first reading was really tabled at that time until the next work session, which was in November of that year. On November 28th, we had a work session, but we didn't have a conversation about dumpsters. It was tabled. Again, it was delayed, and no action was really taken. From that standpoint, a moratorium basically went into effect, as the gentleman has stated with Mayor Portashef. I suspect, and I'm working off memory here like a lot of us are, I suspect that when we got into November, we said the holidays are here. There's no sense in us having any more conversation about this. We'll put it off to next year and talk about it. It wasn't one of those hot button issues, but it was something that still needed to be discussed. Again, I'm speculating here on my part that when we got into January of 2007, we had a new mayor came in, Mayor Weathington came in, and we had a couple of new council members as well. So the whole conversation really kind of got disjointed again, and no one really brought the issue back up. And so it just kind of laid there. And so the planning department didn't really push for it, council didn't push for it, and so we just let the issue kind of run its own course here, which is really for the last 8 or 9 years, there's been no course at all when you get right down to it. The whole action and what we're trying to accomplish with that in terms of understanding and trying to again, capture these non-conforming uses and bring them into compliance, I don't know that we've either failed at that or succeeded. Because, again, they really have not been, with the exception of this one we're hearing tonight, to my knowledge, have not really been an issue for the city to deal with from that standpoint. That's not an excuse. That's just stating fact on that. With that in mind, we can go forward with this conversation, continue this conversation again. When one of the 3 ideas up here involved with that was really to direct us to go ahead and enforce what's actually on the books today, which would require non-conforming dumpsters, not just on 8th and Broadway, but citywide, to come in compliance and do so within the next 18 months to make that happen. You could go ahead and place, again, the moratorium officially into place here, if you want to call it that, and call for another review of the 2006 proposal and bring it back to you. Or, from that standpoint, you could just do the other thing, is just repeal that entire section dealing with non-conforming dumpsters and do away with it completely.
Rick, let me ask a question. I'm sorry to be confused. Maybe it's just that it's a little late in the evening, but is there a dumpster ordinance on the books that was passed by this council? I mean, is this on the books? I don't understand the mayor moratorium thing, because if it's on the books, a mayor can't issue a moratorium for enforcement, so I'm a little confused.
There was some conversation from the mayor and council at that time about what action they should be taking, and no action was really taken at all.
So it's not really a mayor moratorium.
It
just never happened. It became codified as law.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what's confusing me, because I don't know of any mayor moratorium.
No, if I said that, I didn't mean to indicate that.
Okay. All right. Well, I think Mr. Stahl had mentioned it. Maybe it might have been in the minutes at some point, but I don't think that there's ever a mayor moratorium that can override a law, except in the most extreme emergencies. Okay. All right. Let's see what we've got here. Mayor Pro Tem. And Mr. Stahl, thank you for bringing up this important issue. You can see how it just got dropped somehow. Mayor Pro Tem.
So whatever is on the books, whatever ordinance is on the book is what should be enforced now, right?
Yes, that's correct.
But it's not on the books.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes. Let's get some clarification. Yes, sir.
It is in the UDO.
Okay.
And we are not enforcing it because of all of that discussion that Director Jones just talked about. And I think it was a verbal moratorium until we have more discussion on the matter.
Well, if we can make a mayor moratorium, this mayor wants to make a moratorium that if the law is on the books, and look, I know you're just doing what you're directed to do. I mean, I understand that we're talking how many years ago? I mean, my God, 9, 10 years ago. So this is nothing against the staff or administrative staff whatsoever, but we enforce the laws until council repeals the laws. Mm-hmm. And maybe there was a consensus among council to issue a moratorium, and I can appreciate that too, but that wouldn't be the proper procedure, at least in my opinion. Yeah, that wouldn't be the proper procedure in my opinion. So I think we either have to bring it back to council to be repealed, if that's council's preference, or it stands as a law on the books to be enforced.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think, as I recall, when it happened, people started coming out of everywhere saying,
sure,
it's
very controversial.
And
Second.
Okay, that's a motion and second that the ordinance, as it exists on the books, be brought back to council to determine whether there's a motion that it be repealed or no motion, and then therefore it will stand. And I do recall it as a private citizen, not being in office at that time. I remember it being controversial.
there was a lot of fuss going on.
Yeah, I remember it being quite controversial. So anyway, we'll see if it's controversial today, 10 years later.
Mayor?
Yeah. Yes.
Any text amendment to repeal it or amend it would have to go to PAC, Planning Advisory Commission first. This is a part of the UDO, so.
Okay. So can council bring it back for discussion at some point and refer it to PAC, or does it need to go to PAC first?
Well, you can discuss it at any meeting, but it's going to have to go through the zoning process
yes.
with a recommendation
Well, let me just recommend that we continue with the moratorium until we bring it to you for discussion.
Well, we never voted on a moratorium.
I don't think, I
Well,
understand that as a practical effect, but I'm very, very concerned about an administrative moratorium that's not at least directed by council because there's a law in the books.
Well,
Okay.
Unless
Was
you
there a
want
vote?
us to go and start enforcing tomorrow,
Okay, wait, hold on a second.
unless you want us to start enforcing it tomorrow, we need to continue with the moratorium until you've had time to discuss and give us direction.
Okay, I think there needs to be a motion that we not enforce section number whatever,
And it needs
whatever.
to have a
And it
time
either-
certain, like 120 days,
Okay.
or whatever it's going to be.
To me, there has to be a motion, a second, and that will need to carry for there to not be an enforcement to cover our staff. I don't like this odd,
If that was a
procedurally odd
moratorium.
moratorium. Hold on a second. And so I think there needs to be a motion to hold that in abeyance, otherwise it's on the books. So, Mayor Pro Tem, you have the floor, I think. At least your light is
Ask the
on.
clerk, didn't you check to see if we had voted in a moratorium?
Those minutes are included in the recap. If you allow me to, I will read.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Suber made a substitute. The first motion was made by Councilor McDaniel. Let me find it. There were several oppositions that came before council. There was a motion made to delay the vote. Mayor Porterchef called attention to the motion for delay and suggested that the council extend the period of time for the delay. City Attorney Fay advised that the city manager is going to hold off on any enforcement on the UDO provision that would affect existing non-conforming dumpsters. Councilor Woodson spoke of similar incidents as mentioned by Mr. Comer. She advised that the police department is working on complaints, but they cannot discuss what actions they're taking because it is a lot of undercover work to catch the perpetrators. Councilor Suber then made a substitute motion to delay the ordinance for 2 months, which was seconded by Councilor McDaniel and carried by a vote of 62 with Councilor Honners and Turner Pugh voting no. Councilor Suber also suggested when this matter is brought forth during a work session that we allow the citizens to be heard. Mayor Porterchef suggested making a motion at that time for the citizens to be heard. There was no mention of a moratorium here in these minutes from what I can see.
So there was a 2-month delay, which was approved by council and has long since expired. Is that correct? Okay. Then
Exactly.
I think that, just to be correct, I think we need, there's a law in the books, as I understand it, if I'm following all this correctly. We're going to need a motion to delay enforcement of that law for a period of time and where council can reconsider or PAC can reconsider. Okay, we've got a motion to delay. What's the period of time?
6 months.
6 months? I heard
Oh,
6 months.
That's fine.
I would think 120 days would be
Okay.
sufficient.
120 days.
120 days. Councilor Allen makes a motion for the ordinance on the books to be, enforcement to be suspended for 120 days. It's been seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. My understanding is that there's going to be some sort of process put into place, I guess at PAC, and then a recommendation made to council.
Well, no, I
No?
think what we need from you first, if you like the ordinance, we don't need to go to PAC. We don't need to do
Okay.
anything. We just need to start enforcing.
Okay.
If you want to do something different than what the ordinance says, then you tell us and we'll go to PAC and ask them to approve what you
Gotcha.
want.
Okay, so we're going to vote on this in just a moment. I'm going to call the question. But it's going to be brought back at some point, work session or otherwise, to the
Soon.
council. Soon,
Yes.
very soon. All right, with that, we have Councilor Thomas with discussion.
Mayor, I would like to table Councilor Allen's motion and ask the planning department to come back to us at our next meeting with a full investigation of this and a recommendation. and then at that point, we can either vote on the recommendation, or we can postpone it for, enforcement or whatever.
Okay.
But just to hold off doing that until we get something from either the recommendation
Okay.
to enforce it or not enforce it or change it or.
Well, then that will have to be a substitute motion to have a moratorium of enforcement or suspend enforcement for 2 weeks. Because, then,
I just want to table his motion until we can get.
well, you have to suspend it because it's subject to being enforced. There could be people, Mr. Stahl may be extremely upset, and he may call tomorrow about a dumpster, and we will be forced to go and ticket that person.
You're right, Mayor.
Yeah,
Okay.
They can
Okay.
still,
All right, I think it's just up for a vote, and that was Counselor Thomas's discussion to the point for her preference of, she's asking that it be tabled, but there's no
There's no second to
second
my
to that
motion
motion.
at this point.
At this
So-
point. Okay.
all right.
Okay, so all those in favor of the 120-day moratorium of this particular provision, please state aye. Are there any opposed? Okay. One. Okay. Thank you all. Mr. Stahl, thank you very much. And Rick, we look forward to you coming back at the first opportunity so we can discuss this further. What's that?
And we'll stay in touch with him to make sure.
Right, we don't have to wait 120 days. We can always take action previously, or sooner. Yeah.
Initiate a text change.
And Mr. Stahl, the city manager, someone from the city manager's office or the planning department will be in touch with you. Thank you. All right, we are just moving on. We have Mr. Leroy Davis here representing the American Legion regarding Veterans Day banquet. Commander Leroy Davis, you're on here erroneously, but we're so glad that you stayed. Thank you.
I don't know whether, y'all can have a seat there.
That's right.
I don't know whether I can persuade y'all to do anything right now. After sitting through all of this. First, let me introduce myself to you and tell you a little bit about myself. I served 21 years in the world's greatest Navy. I'm one of those people who wrote a blank check, just as these veterans are here, and I thought I was going to get a chance to speak when we had a room full of veterans. I knew I had support right then, but that's okay. I still feel good talking to you all because I see how much you care about the Chattahoochee Valley. I'm not going to just say Columbus, Georgia, because I'm speaking on behalf of veterans, and we're talking about the Chattahoochee Valley. And I just want to ask one question before I really get started, is how many of you know that there's only two defining forces that have ever offered to die for you? And that's Jesus Christ and the American GI. One died for your soul, and the other one died for your freedom. We, who you see here today, and those who was in the room earlier, we were saved to serve. And I really wanted to speak in front of those young men and women who were still in uniform, because what I do here today is they got to take my place tomorrow, when I get to the point that I can't serve anymore in this capacity. I've served 21 years, as I said, in the Navy, and now I have to carry the torch to help veterans. And we have started an organization here in the Valley called the Chattahoochee Valley Veterans Organization. And what we are doing is we're planning the first ever, which is our inaugural Veterans Banquet, which will be held Friday, November the 13th at the Convention and Trade Center. And when I say the Chattahoochee Valley, that's include every veterans organizations in Phoenix City, in Columbus, and the surrounding 7 counties that come under Muskogee County. So we are getting together, and the reason we pull all of these organizations together is because ever since the war started, people have been coming out the woodworks trying to get money out of veterans instead of trying to help them. Do you realize how many new veteran organizations have started up and say, well, we'll help the veteran do this so we can get in their pocketbook? Veterans need help. Every day I'm dealing with veterans trying to help them pay their rent, because as they make that transition from the military to civilian life, some of them are young, they have not learned how to manage their funds, so they don't save, they don't prepare. And so now they end up fit to become homeless veterans. And by the way, I'm also on this the Care Continuum Board for Muskogee County and Russell County to eradicate homelessness for veterans by 16, which I hope that we will accomplish. But what I'm really trying to say, and I'll give you an example, is Wounded Warrior Project. Started out great. They're making buku money. But none of that money is touching the streets here in the valley, helping our veterans. You can go in J.C. Penney's tomorrow and buy you a Wounded Warrior shirt. Yes, they are 501c, but they are for profit. We are 501c19 veterans organization who everything we get goes to help veterans and their families and the community. Nothing we take in is spent on us. We don't get paid. Our national commander of the American Legion don't get paid. The national commander of the DAV don't get paid. The national commander of Veteran Affairs and War don't get paid. We work for free to help veterans, to take care of veterans. And so we wanted to invite you all to come to the Veterans Banquet on November the 13th. Tickets are $40, and we're not asking you to vote on that. We ask you to take that out your pocket because I know you can't vote on something like that. So we want to invite you to come in, come to the banquet, and just tell veterans thank you. This is an annual event starting this year. This is our inaugural. We eventually invited General Colin Powell to be our guest speaker, but we got to him too late. So Major General Miller of Fort Benning will be our guest speaker. I believe Congressman Bishop is still scheduled to be there. A couple of state senators and congressmen out of Alabama is scheduled to be there as well. We've already went out with a request for next year for General Colin Powell, so we're hoping that we'll get him, and we're putting pressure on him, saying that we named these parkways after you. Your kids went to school here, so we want to get people like that here to speak to our veterans. Time almost up, okay. But anyway, I can talk forever about helping veterans because veterans are the ones who wrote a blank check for this country to go anywhere, anytime, day or night, whenever the president decides to send us. So please, think about us and what we do for you, and what we have done for you, and what those current active duty members are doing for you now. Thank you.
And what's the date one more time?
November the 13th. It'll be at the Trade Center. Meet and greet starts at 6 p.m. The formal kicks off at 7.
Great.
And you'll be able to take pictures, and it's not formal. It's regular church attire. Shirt, tie, or whatever. So, because we want the younger soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen to be comfortable. All of them may not have a tuxedo.
All right. And we want you to introduce the fine women there standing behind you.
This is Pat Liddell. She's the Junior Vice Commander of the state of Georgia. I'm the only one in here of the state of Alabama American Legion. These ladies are the state of Georgia as well.
Sarah Anderson.
Sarah Anderson.
Post 267.
Post 267.
Hilda Walker.
Hilda Walker.
Post 333.
Post 333. They call themselves the triple threat.
All right. Counselor Barnes.
Commander Davis, I'd like for you to let the mayor and council and our viewing audience know all that the American Legion does in this community for the veterans, because a lot of people don't really realize all that the American Legion does is the Veterans Court is treating the veterans with coming back with PTSD or traumatic brain injuries. But please elaborate on that, please.
Our number one priority is our veterans, and we are the largest wartime veterans organization in the world.
That's right.
We help veterans navigate the VA system. We help them get their benefits. We actually do the paperwork with them, and for them, and we don't charge them. We got lawyers now since 9/11 happened. Lawyers have came in and started saying, okay, I'll do your paperwork, but I'm going to charge you 5% or 10% or whatever you get. Well, they can come to the American Legion, the Disabled Veterans of America, the DAV. They can go to the VFW, Veteran of Foreign War, and we will all do their paperwork for free. It's going to take the same amount of time for it to go through the system and get back. We also help them navigate the VA system. And what I mean when I say navigate, they've got to go to the VA hospital in Tuskegee. They need to know what doctor to go see, how to go see. If they have problems in this area here, they can call me. I'm the public relations officer for the Department of Alabama. And Tuskegee, this clinic belongs to Tuskegee VA Medical Center. I have a relationship with the director, and if any veteran in the Chattahoochee Valley area has a problem, they call me. That problem is taken care of just like that.
Exactly.
So our most important thing is veterans rehabilitation and making sure that they get the help medically and financially that they need.
Thank you all so very much.
Oh, and one other thing I wanted to say, and she just reminded me, we support the parade, the Veterans Day Parade.
There you go.
And we've, this year, you're going to have Tuskegee VA Medical Center involved. They're going to have doctors on float so veterans can know who their doctors are. Fort Benning, Colonel Dominguez, she's building a float. She's going to have her doctors on the float so that retirees and other veterans who are eligible to go to Martin Army can see those doctors as well. There are all kind of businesses that's going to be entering floats in the parade. So it's just growing at leaps and bounds. And along with the banquet and both of them working together, it's going to bring some revenue into both cities as well. So I wanted to make sure you all knew that.
And then we close out that Sunday with the second annual Citywide Veterans Day service at St. Mary's Road United Methodist Church, because that's where it was at last year. And then we'll celebrate the POW MIAs with the ceremony. So please come out and join us. If we got Alabama coming, we need Georgia there. Thank you so much.
And the guest speaker at the second annual St. Mary's Road Veteran Service is General White.
General White.
And
one more thing I wanted to say, because I didn't think I'd get it clear, and I do this, so y'all forgive me. The other reason that the Chattahoochee Valley Veterans Organization was started is so that you won't have 27 organizations going around to every business asking for a donation. You got one organization that's going to ask for donation, and all the rest of the organizations have to come to the Chattahoochee Valley Veterans Organization and get funding. If we can make this work, then we can only have 1 to 2 fundraisers a year, and we can raise the funds to run the program, whereas Post 333 come to Chattahoochee Valley Veterans Organization and say, hey, we get ready to have our oratorical program, which is a scholarship program, and we need $2,100. Well, the Chattahoochee Valley Veteran Organization, we know every program that a veteran organization, because all of us are 501c 19, the 19 stand for Veterans Organization, we know every program they're supposed to run, so they can't blow no smoke on us. So instead of you getting complaints saying, look, I got all of these veteran organizations coming asking me for money, they should be able to tell them, go to the Chattahoochee Valley Veterans Organization because we got them in our budget and we have already donated to them. So you go to them when you need some funding. And I just wanted to make sure I got that.
Commander, I appreciate you coming as well as with the other Legionnaires. And it's not very, I'd like to see so many more women to join the American Legion, see you find women standing there. And I want to give a plug, Mayor, for the Veterans Day Parade. You know, Mayor, this is the 7th one. It just seems like yesterday that I started, but it was 2009, for the purpose of having individuals, you know, there's so many good people, very patriotic people in this Tri-City area. But at the same time, many of the veterans, although I know we never asked it, many veterans never got as much of a thank you. And it allows the average veteran an opportunity to get into their vehicle And primarily, that's what I wanted. It was nice to have the support of all the organizations coming out, military vehicles, the floats and whatever. But the concept that I had was for the average veteran to get into his or her vehicle and drive in the parade and have the good people of the Tri-City area say thank you for your service, and not only to the veteran, but no veteran goes through military service alone, also to the family members as well. And so I'd like to encourage more veterans. I don't care if you have a hoopty, I drive a hoopty, I get a hoopty in there and drive it. The only thing that we want to do is to have the people say thank you so much for your service. And I appreciate you, Commander, come down, the Legionnaires, coming down and talking about the Veterans Day Parade is the 14th of November, starting at 9 o'clock. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Mayor Thomason, I'm going to need a note because I should have been at bingo and I haven't been there. So I'm going to need a note
You bring
to
me
say
an
that I
agenda,
was
I'll
here.
sign away. Well, good, well, thank you. And I guess that was a twofer. We got the St. Mary's United Methodist Church out of the way, too,
So
didn't we?
they got it out the
Here
way.
we
That's why they
go.
came up.
Okay, moving right along. Thank you all very,
There
very
we go.
much.
Look
Appreciate
at that. Look,
you
see,
guys.
those are military. You see that? Courtesy rendered appropriately.
All right. How about Mr. Shane Clark with the Charlie Daniel Charity Concert?
Yes.
I think, oh, fantastic.
There he
Look
is.
there. Come on up.
Thank
You
you
would
so
just
much.
state your name and your address, and boy, we sure do appreciate your patience.
Shane Clark from Virginia Street in Lake Bottom. I so appreciate this opportunity. You'll love me for my brevity, if for nothing else. I have a newfound respect for your job. Thank you for your service to our city. Wow, Pops didn't tell me I'd need a coffee thermos and a sleeping bag. Yeah, great place. You know, it's great to see Commander Leroy Davis. We're going to have a great Veterans Day week because I'm here to, there's something in 2 weeks that's going to happen. I think we can all agree is a great event. And that is my good friend Charlie Daniels and the Charlie Daniels Band will be here doing a full-on military tribute and benefit concert at the River Center. So that's just a few days before the dinner. You're going to be there to promote the banquet and the parade at the concert. We actually have already provided 48 tickets to American Legion Post 135 that they're going to distribute to Homeless Veterans Association and also to the wheelchair veterans of Tuskegee are coming over, right? Awesome, wonderful, and you're going to get some more as well. We're working on that. What we've done is that my dear friend Charlie has been a supporter of the little work that I have, the little ministry that I have down in Mexico for kids who have cancer and HIV. Camp Laughing Child is the work that I run, that I operate there on a full-time basis. I guess home is where your mama lives, and so that's why I find myself in Columbus. I was born here at St. Francis Hospital many decades ago. I went through the school systems here. I went on to Asbury College in Kentucky, and then I did a master's equivalent mentorship with the then Vice President at Large for World Vision International, and it was with Dr. Kamalasan that in India I met Mother Teresa in 1991. And I sat with her on a little bench, and after she learned my name, she looked me in the eyes and she said, "What do you know about AIDS?" And I said, "I don't know anything about AIDS." And she said to me, "Well, the government's just come and they need our help because it's going to be an epidemic here, and I don't know anything about it." And so I foolhardily looked at Mother Teresa in the eyes and I asked her the question, "Would you like me to learn about it?" And she said, "Yes." Well, that yes changed my life. And I've been doing pediatric AIDS care since then. Well, Mother Teresa and the little organization which I founded at that time in that same year planted the first pediatric AIDS care home in India in 1993. I did pediatric AIDS care in 50 or 60 countries of our world, and then I ended up at Habitat for Humanity International. I led their international ecumenical and interreligious affairs for 4 years. And after that time, we decentralized our church relations office, and so I could either go into the development office at Habitat, which Millard Fuller asked me to do, or it was time for me to leave and to get some more dirt under my fingernails, which I frankly was missing by then. And so I started a little organization called Laughing Child International, and that's given way now to Camp Laughing Child. I spent a few years in Cape Town, South Africa, where I worked with the church and child care institutions, and we worked with child rape victims. There's a myth of virgin cure there, the idea that if you have sexual intercourse with a virgin, you'll be cleansed of your STD. So in Africa, of course, the crisis is AIDS, and so we would pick up children as young as 9 months old who had been used like medicine as a cure for AIDS. So after those few years that were very deeply taxing to me in every way, I decided, after again working myself out of a job, that I should go and find a place closer to Columbus, Georgia. Rather than being 3 days away from my mama, I'm an only child, I should be 3 hours from her. And so I ended up in Mexico, and we've planted what is believed, and I'm not gloating in this, I'm saddened by this, but what we believe is the only facility of its kind in all of Latin America. We care for children who are dying. These kids are dying of cancer, and our special focus is on children who are infected with HIV, for which there is nothing. So when Charlie, who has been now a supporter of Camp Laughing Child for years, when we sat and talked, he said, well, why don't we do a concert? I said, okay, let's do it at home. Let's do it on the night before Veterans Day, and let's make it a blessing to our community in Columbus, Georgia. And so in doing, let's do a military tribute. All these veterans and active military there, you know how to bless our troops. You've been doing it all over the world for so long. I promise to wrap this right up. So we said, Charlie, come do this military tribute. And so Camp Laughing Child, what we've done is we've given so far 101 tickets to Wounded Warriors Association in Fort Benning, 48 tickets to Commander Leroy Davis and American Legion Post 135. Another 30 tickets to Sam Rhodes and his Warrior Outreach up in Harris County. And we'll be giving more tickets away. So we're asking the community, even if you don't like Charlie Daniels, buy a ticket and send a veteran or send an active soldier or their family member. Because that night, Charlie's going to put a show on to end all shows, a one-of-a-kind. You know, he turned 79 years old today. And we all know that the devil went down to Georgia. So maybe he'll kick him out if we let him have our floor at the River Center on the 10th. But we'd love to see all of you. Please come. Buy a ticket for a veteran, for their family, if you know a veteran. But if you don't know a veteran and you don't have that access, there are 3 price categories, and you can buy a gift ticket in any price category. $39. We all know there's no bad seat at the River Center, at the Bill Hurd Theater. So in the balcony are $39 seats. On the floor, $49 seats. And the $99 seat, the $99 ticket is the gold circle ticket right up in the front of the house. And amazingly, that ticket includes a meet and greet with Charlie Daniels himself. You'll get a professional photograph of you with the man himself for just $99. And you can buy any of those tickets for a veteran, and we'll make sure they get to the right folks through those organizations that know the veterans. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the 10th. Thank you.
Do you want to say something, Humps?
Yes, I do.
Your light's on.
Yes. Yeah, I've tried it because it's not working. I've got my...
I can hear you.
But people can't. Is it on? First of all, I want to thank you for all your years of work.
Well, thank you.
That you've done. This is a marvelous thing for a lot of the children, benefiting the children. And I know that the commander told me about it way before, and Steve Tennant, Red Cross, contacted me and told me that. And I said I just wanted to be to have you come down here and let this good community know what this is all about. That is benefiting these children. And I read at the bottom, 100% of proceeds benefit children living with terminal diseases through Camp Laughing Child.
100% of the proceeds.
And that is what, when I got called and I said 100% of the proceeds going. It's a marvelous. We get a chance to see Charlie Daniels here and really appreciate what he is doing to support this here. And more importantly, I just want to thank you for the many years that you devoted to individuals, not only in India, Of course, you got a good dose of Mother Teresa there, so I know that gave you a little turbo in the heart department of doing things for those that can't do for themselves. So I just want to say thank you again.
That's very kind. Thank you.
The Barnes family will be there,
Awesome. Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you.
and thank you again.
Folks can learn more about what they're supporting through the website laughingchild.org. So if you have a curiosity about what it is that this is supporting, we're easy to find. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item, individual, Mr. Arthur Brown, representing the Wellington subdivision. Thank you very much for your patience.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Arthur Brown. I live at 5126 Biscayne Drive here in Columbus. And this is not how I had planned on spending my 42nd anniversary.
Is that Mrs. Brown?
That's Mrs. Brown. We've been here,
Happy anniversary.
you know, we had not planned. I guess we're going to have to go to Crystal tonight, and everything else is going to be closed. But anyway, I'm here for two reasons. One, we've been trying for the last 3 years to get speed bumps over in our area. That's over on Sky Lake, Biscayne, Kingston, and Delray. Somebody's going to get killed over there, and I'm hoping it's not. My children are already grown and gone, so there are still children over there, and we care about those children over there. And if we got these people running through there, they're coming through there like it's on Indianapolis 500. Pop Barnes has been over there. He knows what I'm talking about. I've talked to him several times, and it seems like we're supposed to get some kind of affidavit or papers or petition in order to get those speed bumps put in. I don't understand why we had to wait so long, because I've gone on several streets. Celia, for one, Celia Drive, over there for one. They have 3 speed tables over there. 2 of them are right before a curb, and 1 is right after the curb. And there's 2 of them that's right between 2 houses. So it doesn't serve any purpose to me. You go over on Wilder, then you got them going downhill, and you got them going uphill. You even got them on top of a hill before going into a curb. Doesn't make any sense to me. Sky Lake, Biscayne, Kingston, Delray, they're all straight, flat streets. And the people are coming through there like mad. I mean, they're coming through there speeding. Motorcycles, cars, it doesn't make any difference. They're coming through there. There are no speed signs on those streets. We have no speed signs on those streets whatsoever. None. You can go on any street over there. There are not any speed signs there. We need something over there. We have a lot of young children that plays out in the street because they don't have anywhere else to play. Somebody's going to come through there one day and they're going to hurt those children. And I'm glad my children are gone, grown and gone. Although I still have grand, they don't play there because they're not here. But we need some help. We need some help. We need some speed tables on those streets there. And if we need to get those petitions to be signed, we need to get them out. Because I've been waiting for these petitions, this paper to come out for the last 2 years, and we haven't gotten them yet, and we need them. The other thing is about the trash pickup. We had one-day pickup, and it's nothing that we can do about it now because it's already there. But we should be getting better service for that one-day pickup. Those guys come out there and they come out there and they pick up. I've had to call in requests for garbage cans on several occasions to be replaced. Why? Because they come out and they don't take care of your things. They take, instead of pulling the tops off, they snatch them off. And those that are snapped on, you know, if you do that, they don't come off that easy. And what happens to them? They get busted up. They get thrown out in the street. Cars run over them. The same thing about the garbage cans. The garbage cans get thrown out in the street. I have a cart that 2 cans fit on. Do you think they put them back in that cart? No, they don't. They take them and throw them out in the street. Therefore, when they do that, I have to call the city and ask for a replacement of those garbage cans. I know those garbage cans are not cheap. I bought them in the store. So I got tired of going to the store buying them, so I started calling the city. But those cans are not cheap. You know, they just take those cans, and the garbage, you can put garbage, if you got 2 garbage cans and they're full and you put some garbage beside, guess what they do? They leave the garbage beside it. I had to get in my vehicle, put trash in my vehicle to catch up with the garbage truck the other day in order to take this garbage and put it on the truck myself. Now, that shouldn't be. You know, if we're going to one-day garbage service, then we should be getting better service than what we're getting, but we're not. We're not getting better service. Matter of fact, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. If you put garbage in a bag, in the can, guess what they do? They just take the bag out, throw it in the truck. If there's any more garbage in there, it stays in there. It stays in there. We're not getting better service. We're not getting better service. Instead of getting better, it's getting worse. And the drivers are not checking on those guys back there. They're not checking on them. They're sitting up there driving, smoking, doing whatever it is that they do. That's what they do. And they're not checking to make sure that those guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And me, myself, I'm getting tired of going behind the garbage truck, taking my garbage to go put it in the truck. I'm tired of going out on the street, picking up my garbage can out of the street, or going down the street and picking up somebody else's garbage can and putting it on the side of the street. And we're not getting any better service. It's getting worse.
Mr. Brown, we have some, Councilor Barnes wants to ask a question, but I wanted to let you know, and to the citizens watching too, that if you dial 311 at the time that happens, that you see that there's trash out, we'll send somebody to pick that trash up, and also the folks involved will be disciplined, even the prisoners. And if you see them throw your trash cans in the street, they're disciplined. In fact, some very severely, they lose the right to be at a work camp altogether and are sent back to the state penitentiary. So if you see them smoking, know that that is a direct violation of them being at a work camp, and they will be sent back to the penitentiary if they're doing something like that. So if you pick up the phone and dial 311 when you see prisoners misbehaving, there will be very strict enforcement. In fact, we have these CERT teams that are dispatched. If you see them talking to citizens, things like that, it's, this is a very serious matter, having prisoners that are in work camps doing some of our public works. And so some of these things, perhaps we can train them. It's a little thing, like make sure you shake the can, and that's fine. We're happy to do that. But if it's a serious infraction, going through trash, smoking, or anything like that, talking to a citizen, it's a very serious matter. So any citizen can just call 311 and report what they see, and we respond immediately to that.
Okay,
Okay.
That's fine. I can do that, but still it doesn't, the answer to damaging the garbage can. Listen, I realize that it costs city money to replace those garbage cans, but I've gotten tired of going to Walmart, Kmart, wherever I get them at, buying those garbage cans. And when I call the city to get them, the city sends them out. But then it doesn't make any sense. Why should the city be furnishing garbage cans if the people take care of them like they're supposed to,
Sure.
when they do the things they're supposed to?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We just need some more better service than what we
Sure.
get. And I understand what you're saying, Mayor, and I'll do my best to do that.
Sure. And other citizens too. Councilor Barnes.
Mr. Brown, you mentioned Celia Drive. It took me almost 3 years to get that. First of all, it took me almost 3 years to get the directional sign. Then it took me a little longer to get the, what do you call them, what do you call those things?
Speed bump?
The speed, no.
Yeah, speed bump. Yeah.
Yeah, the speed bumps.
Table. Speed table.
Speed tables. Rosewood took me 2 years, Rosewood Drive. Gardner Drive needs speed bumps. They go down just like the Indianapolis 500. Biscayne, Skylake, Wellborn Drive is horrendous as well. So there are a number of areas that really need to have them. It's been it's really been a question of finances. The gentleman that lives on Skylake, I forget his name right now.
Hardy.
Who? Say again?
Hardy.
Yes, Mr. Hardy. Mr. Hardy's done 2 of those petitions. You obviously signed one of them, and it came here. So, I'm all for individuals in the community coming down because I am concerned in the community about speeding on a number of streets, And it's all over the districts, not just in any specific districts. There's a lot of places. And it's a matter of finances, really, getting the signs and getting the speed tables.
Well, I understand that too, but the placement of those speed tables, to me, that's ridiculous to have them so close and going into a curve.
Well, let me tell you.
Two right in
Right.
between,
Right.
in between two houses, and then one
right.
more right down there.
And I'm going to explain to you why that was done. In both of those houses, you had one house where at least 8 times a car went up into that driveway. This woman was a grandmother. She had 3 or 4 children, knocked the mailbox down. The other house, and it's going into a turn, they went up in their driveway a number of times. So they went out there and they did the study, and I know because I was out there when they did it. So they decided to put them right there because as you come around either direction, you're coming around a turn. So that's why they have those 2 places there. And you're not the only one to ask that question, and I don't mind explaining it. But that's why those were placed there. On Celia, you're talking about on Celia.
On Celia.
On Celia Drive.
But Wilder, it doesn't make any sense. There's a table sitting right on top of a hill.
Well, I don't know about that.
Before you go into that deep curve.
I don't know
There's
about.
one sitting right on top of the hill. You got them going down here, going up.
That's not my district, but
it doesn't make any sense.
But Celia Drive,
You're
I
talking
can.
about finances. You're talking about finances. That, to me, that's wasting money too.
Wilder, I don't know, but Celia Drive I can speak to, and I can speak to why they were placed in that area, because you're going into a turn in either way you go, and they've had so many collisions going up into mailboxes and knocking them down. It's just horrendous. But
I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned about Biscayne, Sky Lake,
and I am too.
And Delray over there, because that's those streets. There's a lot of children over there.
There's a lot of children. And I want to tell you, I'm concerned as well, and that needs to be placed. Delray, Biscayne, along with Gardner, and along with Gardner Drive as well.
So what kind of response am I looking at? I need to tell, like I said, my constituents, I need to tell them something over there too.
Well, there's already been a petition. Obviously, you had to sign it because there were 2 that Mr. Hardy did, that I know he did, because I turned it in and I know he did. So we just have to find out and follow up on
Mr.
that.
Hardy hadn't done anything. He hadn't gotten them, and I haven't signed any petition.
Well, I don't know how he missed you, but I do know that 2 were done for a fact. But I will follow up on it and find out.
All right.
Mayor Pritchett?
I just want to say, Wilder Drive was one of the first streets turned in for speed issues, and it took 20 years to get speed bumps on Wilder Drive. It was important to some people, may not be important to some other people, but they had speeding issues and children walking on the street to school.
All right. That concludes our public agenda. And at this time, we will head into the city manager's agenda. Mr. City Manager.
Madam Mayor, while we are waiting on some of the council members, I'm going to go ahead and if Director Forrest Tolley is back there or Donna Newman, those are going to be the only 2 updates.
Let's see, hold on a second. We might have a quorum. We've got a quorum. Let's go ahead and get some business done.
Okay. Well, number 2 on my agenda is Riverwalk easement for Georgia Power.
Okay, we've got is this a Riverwalk easement?
Yes.
Okay, Riverwalk easement, we've got a motion and a second for approval. There appears to be no discussion. All those in favor, please indicate your vote by pressing green, and a no vote is red. All right, thank you.
Okay. And then I have purchases. I've got a 5-year consolidation plan and first-year annual action plan, RFP, with Mullen and Lonergan Associates to provide consulting services for these plans.
Okay, we've got approval of and a second of approval A through H. Are there any items that council wishes to pull for further discussion? Yes, Councilor Allen.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. I had a question on the 457. I had some city employees call, and they're concerned about how the fees are assessed. And I talked to Ms. Hallwell earlier and just asked her to briefly update council on how the process works so the city employees could. I know you had some.
We had some employee meetings, and she can certainly do that. Councilor Allen is referring to the 457 deferred comp plan, and Director Holloway, you can come around, but we were going to a single vendor, and we already have VALIC, and we have a number of other vendors like Nationwide, Great West, and Hartford, and even going with a single vendor, I think we've made sure employees know that they can keep their current vendor and payroll deduction if they choose not to go with VALIC. Nothing will change for them. VALIC has 75% of our employees who are in, 25% are spread amongst the others. But what we've been able to do with going with a single vendor, employees going forward would be with VALIC, is that we were able to get the fees lowered. And so VALIC fees obviously will be lower than the fees with those other companies. And so we've worked it out that employees have the option, they can do whatever, but that's basically it. But you can answer any questions or explain
Absolutely. As it relates to the fees associated with plan participants are plan fees, administrative fees, and fund fees. One of the reasons we conducted an RFP was because we needed to, and it's our obligation to do so as plan sponsors for the deferred comp. And in doing so, one of the things we wanted to assure those folks participating in the deferred comp plan is, as much as we could possibly, as being the plan sponsor, ensure that they were paying the lowest administrative and fund fees. And that's not always easy to assure, because for those folks participating in the 457 deferred comp plan, when you get your quarterly statement or you go online and you look at your funds, the fees are not easily, it's not easy to see. And it's not easy even to understand. If on your document that you get, on your statement that you get, it may say your fee is assessed 2 basis points or something like that. It's in financial terms as opposed to layman's terms. So one of the things that we are committed to doing is, with the sole vendor, is ensuring that they are transparent with the City of Columbus and transparent with the participants what those fees are, whether they're administrative fees or fund fees, exactly what they are and how they play into whatever funds that particular participant selects.
Do we know how long that fee is for? Can it be raised at any point, or is it for the life of the contract? Or
that's as long as you're a participant, there are going to be some fees, administrative and fund fees. That's how the vendors get paid, the mutual fund financial planners, that's how they get paid. So as long as you're a participant, there are going to be some funds. What we're trying to do is make sure that it's transparent what those funds are, so that employees will know what they are actually paying. As it relates to some of the different funds, there are different fees associated with the various funds. We don't know all of that, and that's one of the things that this particular sole vendor has committed to, is the transparency that we feel like we need, so that we can feel like we're doing our job as the sponsor and providing employees the information they need to know, and making decisions on whatever funds they're going to be putting into the deferred comp and exactly what fees are associated with that.
And I can say to you that the employees who have been in the 457 deferred, if you ask the 450 employees, they would not be able to tell you what the cost of them doing business with those companies. There's a fee associated, and that's how they make their money, but you don't see it when you get your statement or when you go online.
All right. I'll get with you offline.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Have Counselor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager,
Hold on a second. For some reason, it's not working. Can you turn on Counselor Thomas's mic and turn off Counselor Allen's mic manually? There you go.
Mr. City Manager, I've had several people ask me about item number F, and they wanted to know why was the city dealing with books from the library. Would you give us just a quick little explanation of that and why we're involved in that at all?
Sure. Back when we did our special purpose local option sales tax in 1999, the library, $50 million for the library was a separate item on our